Millionaire father sees Latina waitress breastfeeding his blind daughter and changes both families' lives forever. The California sun gleams intensely over the white marble mansion of Sebastian Montgomery, one of the richest entrepreneurs in California. At 42 years old, Sebastian had built a technological empire that extended throughout Silicon Valley, but his greatest treasure was in his wife Elena's arms, a small girl of only 8 months named Isabella. The child had been born with a rare condition that left her completely blind, and since then, the couple's life had transformed into a desperate search for treatments and specialists. Elena Montgomery, a socialite who once lived between charity parties and exclusive spas, now spent her days researching childhood visual impairment and consulting doctors around the world. The couple had spent millions on consultations, experimental therapies, and specialized equipment, but Isabella continued restless, crying constantly and rejecting food. The most renowned pediatricians in Los Angeles couldn't explain why the girl wasn't developing adequately despite all available medical care. 15 miles away, in a small apartment in Compton, Maya Rodriguez finished another double shift as a waitress at the Golden Diner, a modest restaurant on the outskirts of Los Angeles. At 26 years old, Maya was a single mother to a 4-month-old baby named Diego. Working 16 hours a day to support her son, she could barely pay rent and diapers, but never let Diego lack breast milk, who grew healthy and happy despite financial difficulties. Maya had a warm personality and exceptional maternal instinct. Even exhausted from work, she always found energy to care for Diego with all love and dedication. Her colleagues at the restaurant frequently commented on how she had a special gift with children. Whenever customers brought crying babies, Maya could calm them just with her gentle presence and soft voice. Everything changed on a cloudy October morning. Elena Montgomery had left for another medical consultation with Isabella when her Range Rover had an electrical breakdown in the Compton region. The car simply stopped in the middle of the street, and Elena realized she was in a completely different neighborhood than she was used to: small houses with bars on windows, old cars parked on the street, people walking hurriedly to work. Desperate, with her daughter crying uncontrollably in her arms, Elena tried to call the car insurance, but her phone was dead. Isabella cried louder and louder, and Elena felt she was losing control of the situation. She had never felt so vulnerable and helpless in her privileged life. It was then that she saw a simple sign: Golden Diner, open 24 hours. Without other options, Elena entered the first establishment she found, the small restaurant where Maya worked. The place smelled of strong coffee and fried bacon, with a yellowed formica counter and red synthetic leather stools that had seen better days. The contrast was striking. An impeccably dressed woman in designer clothes, carrying a purse that cost more than Maya's annual salary, entering a simple restaurant with plastic chairs and laminated menus. Isabella cried endlessly, and Elena was visibly desperate. Maya was finishing cleaning a table when she noticed the elegant woman entering in panic with a baby in her arms. Her maternal instincts immediately activated. She had seen that kind of desperation before. It was the same look she had when Diego was sick and she didn't know what to do. "Senora, is everything okay?" Maya asked in English, with a slight accent that revealed her Mexican origins. Her brown eyes radiated genuine warmth that contrasted with the cold and impersonal environment of medical offices that Elena was accustomed to. Elena looked at Maya with a mixture of desperation and unconscious prejudice. Part of her hesitated to accept help from a Latina waitress in a simple restaurant, but Isabella's incessant crying made her put her reservations aside. "My car broke down and she won't stop crying," Elena explained, her voice trembling. "She's blind and has problems feeding. I don't know what to do anymore." Maya immediately approached, extending her arms toward Isabella. "Can I try to calm her? I have a baby too, maybe I can help." Something in Maya's voice, a combination of maternal confidence and genuine compassion, transmitted a security that Elena hadn't felt in months. Hesitant, she handed her daughter to the waitress. Within seconds, Isabella stopped crying. Maya began humming softly a Mexican lullaby that her own mother had sung to her, gently rocking the child in a rhythm that seemed hypnotic. To Elena's complete amazement, Isabella not only calmed down but also smiled for the first time in weeks, a small but genuine smile that lit up her pale little face. "How did you do that?" Elena asked, incredulous. "I can't explain it. I've always had a way with babies," Maya replied, still cradling Isabella. "She seems hungry, but maybe she's not able to nurse properly?" Elena explained about Isabella's blindness and all the difficulties they had been facing. Maya listened attentively, and a maternal intuition made her suggest something bold. "I'm breastfeeding my son. If you want, I can try to nurse her. Sometimes babies reject bottles when they need more direct contact." The proposal initially shocked Elena. Her privileged upbringing and social prejudices screamed against the idea, but a mother's desperation spoke louder. Isabella was losing weight, and doctors were beginning to talk about hospitalization. "I don't know if that's appropriate," Elena hesitated. "Look, I understand your concern," Maya said gently. "But I'm healthy, I eat well, and my milk helped Diego grow strong. Sometimes babies need what only another mother can give." That same day, Maya breastfed Isabella for the first time. The result was miraculous. The girl nursed voraciously and then slept peacefully for 3 hours straight, something that hadn't happened in weeks. Elena cried with relief and gratitude. In the following days, Elena began bringing Isabella to the Golden Diner daily. Maya nursed the girl during her breaks, and gradually, Isabella began developing better. She gained weight, smiled more, and seemed more alert and interested in the world around her. What impressed Elena most was the naturalness with which Maya cared for Isabella. She seemed to instinctively understand the blind girl's needs, positioning her so she could feel the vibrations of the restaurant's radio music, softly describing everything that was happening around, creating a rich sensory world for Isabella through words, sounds, and textures. Maya also introduced Isabella to Diego, who was immediately fascinated by the older girl. Even being just a baby, Diego seemed to understand that Isabella was special, and frequently extended his chubby little hands to gently touch her face, as if trying to console her. Sebastian, initially skeptical about this unconventional solution, soon noticed the dramatic improvement in his daughter. He began researching the benefits of breast milk for babies with special needs, and discovered that many specific nutrients and antibodies in human milk were fundamental for Isabella's neurological development. Additionally, studies showed that skin-to-skin contact during breastfeeding stimulated the production of hormones essential for emotional and cognitive development of babies with disabilities. As weeks passed, Sebastian began visiting the Golden Diner too. Initially, he only went to pick up Elena and Isabella, but gradually began talking with Maya about his daughter. He was impressed by the intelligence and maternal intuition of the young waitress, who frequently made observations about Isabella's development that not even the expensive specialists had noticed. "She's starting to react differently to sounds," Maya commented one day, while nursing Isabella. "When Latin music plays on the radio, she gets more relaxed. And when someone speaks Spanish, she turns her little head. I think she's learning to distinguish languages." Sebastian was intrigued. He hired a child development specialist who confirmed Maya's observations. Isabella was developing exceptional auditory skills as compensation for blindness, and exposure to both languages was beneficially stimulating specific areas of the brain. As weeks passed, something unexpected happened. A deep connection formed between the two families. Maya didn't see Isabella as just another child to care for. She genuinely fell in love with the girl and dedicated all her maternal love to her. Sebastian and Elena, in turn, began seeing Maya not as an employee, but as an angel who had appeared in their lives. 3 months after the first meeting, Sebastian made a decision that would change everything. During a dinner at the Montgomery mansion, where Maya had been invited with Diego, he made a proposal that left everyone in silence. "Maya, you saved our daughter," Sebastian said, his voice choked with emotion. "Isabella is developing magnificently thanks to your care. Elena and I have talked a lot, and we want to make a proposal." Elena held Maya's hand and continued, "We want you to move into our house. Not as an employee, but as family. You would care for Isabella as if she were your own daughter, and we would care for you and Diego as our own family." Sebastian added, "Besides that, we want to establish a trust fund for Diego. He would have access to the best education, the best doctors, the best opportunities. And you would never have to worry about money again." Maya was shocked. The proposal meant complete financial security for her and Diego, but it also meant leaving her independent life and entering a completely different world. She asked for time to think. That night, Maya spent hours awake, holding Diego and looking at Isabella, who slept peacefully in the crib beside them. She realized that her decision wouldn't just affect her life, but the future of both children. Isabella needed her as much as Diego, and perhaps this was the opportunity to give both a better life than she could ever provide alone. However, Maya also had fears. fear of losing her identity, of becoming dependent, that social differences would eventually cause problems. She knew that some members of Beverly Hills high society wouldn't easily accept a Latina of humble origins living as part of the Montgomery family. Maya accepted the proposal, but established her own conditions. She would continue working, but now on social projects funded by the Montgomery Foundation. She would use her experience and empathy to help other mothers in situations similar to what she had lived. The move to the Montgomery mansion was a challenging adaptation period for everyone involved. The house was an architectural masterpiece of 3 floors, with gardens that looked like they came from a magazine, an infinity pool overlooking the Beverly Hills, and bedrooms larger than the entire apartment where Maya had raised Diego. Maya had to learn new social etiquettes, how to dress house staff, what clothes to wear for different occasions, how to behave at formal dinners. Elena, surprised with herself, became an unlikely mentor, teaching Maya about life in Californian high society without ever making her feel inferior. The house staff initially reacted with a mixture of curiosity and resistance. The housekeeper, Mrs. Patterson, an English lady who had worked for the family for 15 years, was particularly difficult to win over. She viewed Maya with suspicion, internally questioning whether a Mexican waitress really belonged in that environment. "She doesn't understand our protocols," Mrs. Patterson murmured to other staff members. "How can someone who never had servants now live as family of the employers?" But gradually, even Mrs. Patterson was won over by Maya's genuineness and the evident transformation in Isabella. The girl, who used to cry constantly, now filled the house with laughter and happy babbling. Maya respected all staff members, quickly learned the house routines, and never tried to exercise authority that wasn't hers. Sebastian and Elena also navigated their own unconscious prejudices. Although they were progressive people in theory, in practice they discovered they had assumed stereotypes about Maya based on her origin and previous occupation. Elena, in particular, was surprised to discover that Maya was extremely intelligent, had articulate opinions about politics and society, and possessed practical wisdom that perfectly complemented the Montgomerys' formal education. Some of Sebastian and Elena's friends were openly hostile to the couple's decision. During a charity dinner at the Beverly Hills Hotel, Margaret Whitfield, a longtime socialite, directly confronted Elena. "Darling, everyone is talking," Margaret said with a fake smile. "Do you really think it's appropriate to have one of those people living in your house as family? What does that say about you?" Elena felt a fury she didn't know she possessed. "Margaret, one of those people. Maya saved my daughter. She's more family to us than people like you will ever be." The confrontation marked a social turning point for the Montgomerys. They realized that some friendships were superficial and based only on status, while other people completely supported them, admiring their courage to break social conventions for love. But Isabella continued prospering. At 12 months, she was reaching developmental milestones that doctors had said were impossible. Although still blind, she responded to Maya's voice with radiant smiles, babbled constantly, and showed a curiosity about the world that surprised all specialists. Diego also flourished in the new environment. He and Isabella developed a special connection, almost like twin siblings. Diego seemed to instinctively understand Isabella's limitations and always played in ways to include her, guiding her hands to toys and humming to her. Sebastian invested millions in research on child development and blindness, establishing a foundation that bore Isabella's name. Maya became the foundation's spokesperson, telling her story at conferences around the country and inspiring other families facing similar challenges. 6 months after the move, Sebastian and Elena made another surprising decision. They initiated the legal process for Maya to become Isabella's official co-guardian. This would ensure that, whatever happened, Maya would always have legal rights over the girl she had saved. 2 years after the first meeting at the Golden Diner, both families' lives were completely transformed. Isabella, now a 3-year-old child, was a happy and curious girl who, although blind, navigated the world with impressive confidence. She spoke fluently in English and Spanish, played piano, a talent discovered by Maya, and had a charismatic personality that charmed everyone around her. Diego had become a protective and loving brother to Isabella. At 2.5 years old, he already showed signs of being an exceptionally intelligent and empathetic boy. Sebastian had established educational funds for both children, ensuring they would have access to the world's best opportunities. Maya had found her life's purpose. Besides caring for the children, she now directed 3 support centers for mothers in difficulties in the Los Angeles region. Her story had become a symbol of hope, showing how maternal love can transcend social and economic barriers. The Isabella Montgomery Foundation had become one of the main support organizations for families with visually impaired children in the United States. Maya regularly traveled to give lectures, always accompanied by Isabella, who had become a little ambassador for the cause. During a conference in San Francisco, Maya told her story to an audience of more than 1,000 people, including doctors, therapists, and families. Isabella, now 3 years old, sat on stage playing a small keyboard while Maya spoke. "When I met Isabella," Maya said into the microphone, her voice loaded with emotion, "she was just a baby who cried constantly. Her parents had all the money in the world, but couldn't give her what she needed most: breast milk and a mother's unconditional love. I was just a waitress struggling to support my own son, but I had exactly what Isabella needed." The audience fell into absolute silence as Maya continued, "This story isn't about money changing lives. It's about how maternal love transcends all barriers, social, economic, racial. Isabella taught me that sometimes we are exactly what someone needs, even when we don't know it." At that moment, Isabella stopped playing piano and said clearly into the microphone, "I love you, Mama Maya." The entire audience stood in an ovation that lasted 5 minutes. Sebastian and Elena had learned that true wealth wasn't in their bank accounts, but in the family they had built. Sebastian frequently said in interviews that Maya had saved not only Isabella, but the entire Montgomery family, teaching them about unconditional love, humility, and what really matters in life. The transformation had also impacted Sebastian's business. He restructured his company to give greater focus to social responsibility, creating mentorship programs for Latino entrepreneurs and establishing free breastfeeding daycare centers for female employees. Montgomery Tech became recognized not only for its technological innovations, but also for its progressive social practices. Elena, in turn, discovered a purpose she had never had before. She abandoned the idle socialite life and became a dedicated activist for the rights of children with disabilities. Together with Maya, she lobbied in the California Congress for laws that would guarantee better support for families in similar situations. On a sunny spring morning, while watching Isabella and Diego playing in the mansion's garden, she guiding him through a melody on the piano while he sang, Maya reflected on the extraordinary journey they had traveled together. What had begun as a moment of desperation in a simple restaurant had transformed into the most beautiful story of maternal love, proving that sometimes miracles come in the most unexpected forms. Maya had given Isabella not only the milk she needed to grow, but also the unconditional love that allowed her to flourish despite her limitations. And Isabella, in turn, had given Maya something equally precious, the opportunity to discover that a mother's true love can, literally, change lives forever. The story of the Rodriguez-Montgomery families became legendary in Beverly Hills, not only for the unusual financial aspect, but for the powerful demonstration that true maternal love knows no social, racial, or economic boundaries. It was living proof that sometimes the most unlikely people become exactly what we need most in our lives. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like if this story moved you.